just calling to say I...
What's up guys, Rage Quitting here, back with another video guide for you guys, and this time we are doing an updated guide for Carnage Marauder in 7.0. And so let's just get right into it with the utilities. So the first one is Berserk Gore. Gore's critical hit chance is increased by 10%, which is really nice because when you're doing your burst windows, Gore is part of that burst window, and a higher chance to crit just means, you know, you'll get bigger bursts within your ferocity window, so that's good. And then while Berserk is active and whenever Gore consumes a charge of Berserk, its cooldown is reset. So you can do things like this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get my Berserk available. Okay, when we go in here, we're going to build up our resources here. And once you use Berserk, now you can do Gore like this and do it again and do it again. Okay, so the reason why that's cool is because Gore has this hinder part of the ability, so hindering the target for 1.5 seconds, so you could extend the duration of that hinder by doing multiple Gores. Okay, and what hinder does is it prevents other characters from using certain mobility abilities or defensive cooldowns. So when I get gored, I can't use camouflage. I know when Sorks get it, they can't, you know, use their bubble for 1.5 seconds. Stuff like that. So it does that with, you know, all the different interactions with the other classes. So that's cool right there. So anyway, we're going to take that. We're going to take Berserk Gore. We're going to take Predation. The reason why we're taking Predation over any of these other ones is because Predation is the most useful. It's the on-demand movement speed buff for yourself and your team. Increases your defense chance by 10%. But the most important part is, because of the tactical we're using, Deathful Splice Genes, activating Predation finishes the cooldown of Force Camouflage. So let's say you're fighting here, right? You're fighting, and you need to evade some damage or just escape the fight for a second. You go ahead and camouflage. Okay, you typically try to run away far enough so that if you're low, you can drop combat and then go ahead and do your out of combat heal behind a line of sight somewhere. And then when you're ready to re-enter the fight, you can go ahead and come right back in. Okay, and the reason why we're taking Predation is because Predation resets the cooldown of Camouflage. So you see how Force Camouflage is still on a 20-second cooldown. If I wanted to, after I re-entered this fight, if I need to leave, I can go ahead and hit Predation and Camouflage and get away again. You know, so that you can go ahead and drop combat, heal up, and then come right back in. Rinse and repeat. Okay, so survivability is pretty important, and Predation just helps so much with that, being able to reset your camouflage. Okay, so we're taking Predation. Next one up, we're going to take Frenzied Blade. Massacre's crit chance is increased by 20%, and activating Massacre reduces the cooldown of Frenzy by 2 seconds every time you use it. So if you don't know what Frenzy does, here, let me use my Berserk. So Frenzy is this ability right here. Enters a Frenzy, immediately building 30 stacks of Fury. If you don't know, Fury is what you need in order to use Berserk. So let me go ahead and get rid of my Berserk stacks here. Once all my Berserk stacks are gone, now every time I use an ability that consumes Rage, I start to build Fury. You can see it right here. Fury 4, 8, 12. Okay, and you need this. You need 30 stacks of Fury in order to use a Berserk. So I'm going to keep going here. Okay, and once I get to 30 stacks, there we go. Berserk is available. Okay, so we're taking Frenzied Blade, Massacre's crit chance, and activating Massacre reduces cooldown of Frenzy by 2 seconds. So Frenzy auto activates Berserk. Once you use it, you hit Frenzy again, and you have Berserk available again. So every time you Massacre, you're reducing the cooldown of this Frenzy, which lets you Berserk more often. Okay, which means more damage. All right. Next one up, we're gonna take is Swiftness. Critically hitting increases movement speed by 5% and crit chance by 5%. Lasts for 3 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. As long as you're critting and as long as you have good uptime, you will have, you know, pretty high stacks of movement speed and crit chance just passively. So we're gonna take this. And on the right here, defensive roll reduces damage taken from area of effects by 30% and increases internal and elemental damage reduction by 3%. Basically for the reduces damage taken from area effects by 30% is pretty huge. If you're in a big team fight, a lot of other characters have AoE damaging abilities that they spam all the time, right? Juggernauts have, Vengeful Slam or Smash. Inquisitors and, Assassins, they have Death Field if they're playing Madness. If they're playing Lightning, they got Chain Lightning. They got, Force Storm. So there's a lot of AoE that happens in the fights. And if you want to take less damage from that, I would highly recommend taking Defensive Roll. Right? Blood Ward is the next one up. Activating Saber Ward grants immunity to stun, sleep, lift, and incapacitating effects for 6 seconds, and getting attacked heals you for 3% of your max health. So this is a really good defensive utility on top of, just adding more to Saber Ward, which is already pretty good. Reason why Blood Ward is good is you can still be stunned in Saber Ward and killed through Saber Ward, because if you're stunned, your defenses are reduced to 0, and you can still be killed during it. But if you take Saber Ward, you can't be stunned in it. So it just helps you to live longer, and the healing that you get back every time you're being attacked is pretty nice too. So just increasing defensives on this utility already. Okay, next one up, we're going to take Force Choke. This is a toss-up between Force Choke and Undying Rage. If you feel like you want to focus more on your survivability, take Undying Rage. And if you want to play a little bit more offensive, I would go with Force Choke. Okay, this is really up to you. Depending on the match, I'll switch it. But typically, I've been using Force Choke. All right. Oh yeah, the other reason why Force Choke is good here is you see how the cooldown says 55 seconds, but Force Choke is affected by Alacrity. So when you use your Berserk in Carnage, you gain 30% Alacrity. So you can, if you make sure your Berserk is active before you do a Force Choke, you can reduce this cooldown by like 15 seconds. Here, let me go ahead and show you on the dummy here. So I'm going to bring the dummy out. I'm going to do my out of combat heal to passively build these Stacks of Fury so that I can use my Berserk. And this is what you should be doing before you enter combat as often as you possibly can. Okay, so now that you see Berserk is available, Force Choke is on a 55-second cooldown. I'm going to go ahead and hit Berserk and then do a Force Choke, and then we'll see the cooldown of Force Choke, right? So Berserk, Force Choke. 43-second cooldown instead of 55. Okay, so for Carnage, when you're setting up your burst windows, this is typically how you want to be doing it. You get a Berserk ready, you get your procs for your Devastating Blast and your Vicious Throw, and you make sure you have Gore available as well. Then you go ahead and Berserk, you stun, and then you hit all your heavy hitting abilities, and you can do that as often as you can. All right, so Force Choke. Brazen is the last one we're going to take. Increases your damage reduction by 2%, and you build 2 Fury when attacked. So reason why this is really strong is, remember when I was building Stacks of Fury on the dummy here, right? When I use my damaging abilities that spend Rage, I build Fury, and right now it's at 8, 12, 16. Okay, the faster you can get these Fury stacks back, the more often you can use Berserk, right? So you see how long it's taking for me to build 30 stacks of Fury on my own? Right there, now I have Berserk, and that's purely from doing damage, okay? But with this talent here, you can build these stacks of Fury when you're being attacked, so it just helps you build those Fury stacks much faster, okay? And this is noticeable. When I take this off and I play with other talents, it's kind of noticeable how much slower it is to build that Fury. And your goal with Carnage is to get back to 30 Fury so that you can use your Berserk and you can kill somebody, all right? Every time your Berserk window is up, that's a potential, kill opportunity, all right? So that's the talents that we were taking. Go over one more time. So Berserk Gore, Predation, Frenzied Blade, Swiftness, Defensive Roll, Blood Ward, Force Choke, or Undying Rage if you want, and Brazen, right? Next thing we're going to go over is the gear. So the gearing system is kind of weird right now. I'm going to try and summarize, but the shortest answer I can give you is the old 306 gear is still better than all of the new gear until you get 326 item level. Okay, so work towards the new gear at your own pace, but don't stress out about it too much, okay? Especially if you're just going to play casually and you're not trying to climb rating, and be, top players on the server or whatever. But 326 gear outweighs 306 gear once it's fully upgraded at 326, okay? And so far from my research, augments are not working in PvP at all right now. I don't know if that's true with the newest augments that came out, but currently all of my augments do not get affected by the bolster. So don't worry about augments, and don't worry about stressing out about the gear farm. Just work at it at your own pace, and don't put it on until it's 326, because all of the old 306 gear still has way more power on it than the new stuff, okay? And power is your best stat as far as DPS goes, okay? My stat priority here is 105% accuracy, 32% crit, and then 8% alacrity, okay? So you want to get above the 7.14 threshold for alacrity to reduce your global cooldown and to, just get your skills to charge faster and stuff like that. So 8% alacrity, 105% accuracy, and then as much crit as you can get, all right? Alright, and then the implants that I'm using, once you hit level 80, you can go pick up these implants in the supply section on the fleet. There's a Twi'lek vendor there that has a quest over his head. That's the guy you talk to. But anyway, so I'm using Berserker's Call. Reduces the cooldown of Frenzy by 15 seconds, and activating Berserk increases all damage dealt by 5% for 10 seconds. And then also Fearless Victor's package. Whenever you use a rage spending damage ability, which is all the time, your melee damage is increased by 10% for 10 seconds. Right? Alright guys, so we're going to go over the rotation real quick. So this is in the perfect world, perfect setup, perfect rotation, okay? In PvP, things change and you might have to move away from this, but you try to stick to this as best you can, okay? So we're going to use our out of combat heal to build 30 stacks of fury so that we can use our berserk as soon as we want to. We're going to charge in, hit a battering assault, and a ravage or a massacre if we don't get the procs on devastating blast and vicious throw, okay? As soon as we get the procs on devastating blast and vicious throw, we're going to move straight into using berserk, ferocity, hit them with the force choke, because force choke is affected by alacrity. So if you use it during a berserk window, the cooldown will be much shorter. Plus you want to stun the target when you're going to go burst them anyway, so they can't mitigate or get away from your damage, right? So charge, battering assault. If we get the procs, we move straight into berserk, ferocity, choke, and then gore, devastating blast, vicious throw, okay? If we don't get the procs off of charge, battering assault, we'll hit them with a massacre, and then go into it once we get the procs, okay? So here we go. Leap, battering assault. We have the procs: berserk, ferocity, choke, gore, devastating blast, vicious throw. All right, that's part one. All right, guys. So this is going to be the double berserk opener with frenzy. So we're gonna do the same exact rotation we just did, but as soon as berserk is used, we're gonna frenzy. And then while we're waiting on our ferocity cooldown with, devastating blast, we're going to either be building rage with battering assault, using ravage, or spamming massacre, okay? So same rotation, frenzy, berserk again, and when ferocity is available, we're gonna berserk and gore, devastating blast, gore, or gore, devastating blast. We're gonna use the 3 stacks from ferocity with berserk, okay? So here we go. We're going to build our fury back up. Alright. Leap. Battering assault. Massacre, or ravage. Massacre. We got the procs. Berserk, ferocity, choke, gore, devastating blast, vicious throw, massacre, battering assault, frenzy, berserk, ferocity, gore, devastating blast, gore. Alright guys, this is the rotation when berserk is not available. You're just going to do, you're going to get your resources up, and then Ferocity with Devastating Blast, because Devastating Blast hits harder than Vicious Throw or Gore. So whenever you use Ferocity, always with the Devastating Blast, and then use either one, Gore or Vicious Throw, whichever is available at the time, okay? If Vicious Throw is available, I would prioritize Vicious Throw because it does more damage when it crits than Gore does, okay? So here we go, we're just gonna do a regular rotation here. We're gonna leap in, get our procs, okay? Ferocity, Devastating Blast, Vicious Throw. And now you're just going to do your filler skills like Ravage and Massacre and Battering Assault until Ferocity is back up. And now we're going to do Ferocity, Devastating Blast, Gore. Okay? And then you do the same thing. You do your filler skills. If you have no Rage, you're going to get Rage back with Leap and, you know, Dual Saber Throw and Battering Assault. And as soon as Ferocity comes back, use Ferocity with Devastating Blast, and then whichever one is available, like right now, it's Vicious Throw, okay? And that's just on a rinse and repeat. So whenever Ferocity is coming back up, you're going to use Ferocity with Devastating Blast, and either one of these, whichever one is available. Gore, Vicious Throw. Alright guys, so this is the Berserk opener on a real target here. I got my buddy Chappie, he's going to be my target dummy for right now. So we're going to go ahead and build our Stacks of Fury and then do our Berserk opener. And we'll see what the damage looks like on an actual player. Alright, so here we go. Alright, so Berserk opener with the choke, and then, you know, you pop your Ferocity, Gore, DB, Vicious Throw, and that's a little bit over half HP. Alright, so we're gonna do this. Chappie, keep your health where it's at. So like I was saying, the Berserk opener, you know, you can get someone from half, you know, full to half, and, you know, obviously if you catch somebody already at half or a little bit less, then you have a really high chance of killing them. So we're gonna go ahead and just use Frenzy here and do it again. Ooh, didn't crit on that Gore, but I got resets on Gore, so you just finish it with that. There you go. Alright guys, and this is gonna be the double Berserk with Frenzy opener. Okay, here we go. Oh, let me go ahead and build my Fury first. So we're gonna do the regular Berserk opener, and then once Berserk is used, we're gonna Frenzy and wait on our, make sure we have some of our damage available, and then go straight into another Berserk. Here we go. Using some filler skills until we have Ferocity ready, and then right now, Ferocity, Gore, DB. There it is. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps it up for this guide. Remember, the PvP rotation, you know, it's not set in stone, you know, because things change in PvP all the time, but at least you guys get like the general idea of what you're trying to do with your burst. But yeah, I hope that guide helped. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on another one. Peace.
I'm just calling to say I